What's the word, Harrisburg? My name is Matt Maisel. Our guest helped turn Dauphin County blue Democrat for the first time in over 100 years. His name is County Commissioner Justin Douglas. Dauphin County Commissioner. When I say that, how's that sound?
It sounds great. I mean, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve Dauphin County these last few weeks, and I'm looking forward to all we're going to accomplish in the future.
When you were going through your campaign, when you were running, how aware were you that it had been over 100 years, at least, since this was a Democrat majority county?
I knew it had been a long time. I did not know it had been 100 years. And then we had some national press tell us that it's actually, they did some research and said it's been since the Civil War. And like, it's just, it's crazy, like to think about that. But I think in some ways it, provides a different perspective, and like, who knows what's possible with new representation, a little bit of a different, I'm obviously a different candidate, even in general, whether Democrat or Republican, in my background, not coming from politics.
Sure. So. Let me get into that a little bit because I've as a life, well, I don't want to say lifelong, but my adult life, and I went to high school at Susquehanna Township. So like I've been in Dauphin County since 1996.
Yeah.
And I've always viewed Dauphin County as a pretty centrist, moderate county, because you have Harrisburg, you have Steelton, which are solid blue, and then you've got Northern Dauphin County, which has always been red, and the county commissioners have always seeming, at least the most recent iteration, have always seemed to kind of represent that in one way, shape, or form as moderate centrist. What do you, but always a Republican majority.
Sure. Yeah.
So what do you kind of view the county commissioners as moving forward, at least for the next 4 years, now that it is a blue majority instead of a red majority?
Yeah, there's a lot being said about blue majority instead of a red majority. And I always come back to, like, that's one way to look at it. And there is value in parties, and like, I don't want to degrade that in any way, but I think it's about, one of the other interesting demographics on our board is that we have someone who's been there 20 years, Commissioner Hartwick. We have someone who's been there 12 years in Commissioner Priest, and we have someone who's been there 0 years in me. I mean, it gives us some really great institutional knowledge, along with some new ideas and new perspectives as I'm learning about how things work. So I want to work with people. I want to work with people, whether there's an R next to your name or a D next to your name. And certainly there'll be areas of disagreement. But I do think it's exciting from the standpoint of just, we were under the impression and told by a lot of people that it was impossible. And so to see things, to be the underdog in essence, and then to experience the people showing up and speaking up and letting their vote be their voice, that's something that for me, I'll always be grateful for.
What are those new ideas that someone who has no experience whatsoever in politics brings to the table?
Well, I think, first is to say, like, while I don't have experience in politics, I do have experience in communities, and as a pastor in my previous work, and still maintaining being a pastor on a different level. I'll be a founding pastor for my church as this transition takes place. But I've organized communities. I've, when we think about constituent services, for example, someone calls you and they have an urgent need because X is happening in a department that you oversee, which, we've been in, I think this is our 5th week now, and we've already seen a number of constituent services things. I understand how to connect with people and listen and help them feel heard, and then try to understand how we remedy the problem, right? How do we get to the core of the problem and see that that there's some movement on their case or their issue, whatever it might be. So I have some background in that, in the sense that in church world, you always have people who might come to you with an issue or with a problem, and you either have to get them connected to the right person or help solve their problem. And then I think leadership-wise, just being the type of person that has a real heart for justice. And when we look at our prison and some of the improvements that are possible there, I have a desire to see some real changes in that space. That's what I ran on And that's what I plan on doing with my 4 years.
So the change aspect of it, the change that you see, I mean, people want, when someone runs for office,
Yeah,
most of the time, at least you would hope that it's for a good reason. It's not clout chasing or anything like that. It's for a good reason, because someone is seeking change to what is currently out there. What was it for you what was the change that you are seeking as an elected official now?
like specifics or buckets of change. Like, I mean, obviously prison reform, we've got some real challenges at our prison that need to be addressed, that I think we've started to address, but we need to ensure that that continues. Part of the challenge is that we have workforce development issues. So we have, I believe, 57 correction officers down. When you're dealing with that much of a need in your workforce, it's very hard to say, hey, we need to reconsider this policy or this procedure, because, not that the policy or procedure doesn't need to be reconsidered, but we're just trying to figure out how to ensure that all of our current policies and procedures are being followed when we're dealing with a workforce, being lower than it typically would be. So recruitment, retention, that's something I want to work on, because that's going to allow us to implement new policies and procedures and see them be, efficacious moving forward. I have a deep heart for the homeless here in Harrisburg, the unhoused, and ensuring that, there's a plan and way that we can, give them dignity, respond to their needs with compassion. That's not necessarily my oversight, human services, but it is the oversight, in my opinion, of the county commissioners in general, to ensure that we're creating a robust plan for that. And then I think the other thing is just innovation, bringing new ideas to maybe problems that have always been around, thinking through technologies. Like even today I was talking about, AI, and is there any way that, we've ever considered AI? And I think in the conversation I was having with the person, I'm like, they told me, I'm pretty sure in this conversation is the most we've probably discussed AI ever. So that's not to say that that's a good idea. It's just to say, I think
it's different.
Thinking about different ideas and thinking about new technologies that exist and how they might benefit the county, how they might help streamline some of what we do, and how they might, ultimately create more equitable and just systems.
So I want to kind of zero in on the homeless stuff, because it's a conversation you and I have had in the past. It's a conversation that we've been in group settings before, because it is no secret that Harrisburg right now is dealing with a homeless crisis, and it is not quite on the level of a Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, but it is our problem right now, and it is there are issues at play that are only going to make it worse before it gets better. So as the county, you have a human services department, and Randy Yeager, the director, is working her tail off left and right to kind of address the issue. We have the Capital Area Coalition on Homelessness. I want to, kind of get your sense of, as someone that was doing work for the unhoused population prior to taking office, what do you see as some of the solutions that we could kind of work towards? Because while the county has the resources that the city doesn't have, it is the city's problem somewhat to kind of deal with. So it naturally becomes something that we got to work together on.
Yeah. Well, and I think you just, at the end of that question, you said the quiet part out loud. We got to work together.
Yeah.
We got to collaborate. And I think part of that is just getting everybody in the same room and saying, okay, what resources exist? What programs can we reconsider? What programs already exist that we don't need to duplicate because they already exist, but maybe we're just underutilizing them? What imaginative solutions can we come up with? I think that's one of the things I'm learning about government, is we usually don't put our imagination hat on when it comes to problems. And I am usually imagining before I'm even thinking of strategic solutions. Just because I always think I always see the obstacle as the way, is what I typically say. So boom, we have an obstacle. Okay. Right through that, there's a way. We got to find the way through this.
It's very Mandalorian of you.
Yeah. And so all that to say, the biggest thing we have to do is we have to have a strategic plan, though. If we imagine, hey, we're going to, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but let's say we all get to the table and we come to the conclusion of we're going to work to purchase a hotel that can be a temporary shelter that can provide a little more opportunities for families, for example, where families might have a struggle going to a shelter for privacy purposes, or, we do have children that are homeless in this area. Like, how are we helping these families get back on their feet? So if we did that, we would need to, in my opinion, make sure we have a strategic plan of like, how are we going to get there? How's that going to be long-term funded? What about the people who don't want to participate in that kind of a system? What's going to be left for them? And we also have to see it as a holistic issue, because we have a lot of people that aren't unhoused necessarily in the sense of homeless living on the street, but they are housing insecure. They're hopping from couch to couch. Affordable housing is a big part of this. Finding affordable housing in the city or even outside of the city is a challenge. So we also got to be careful to think there's a silver bullet in this. There's probably going to be a lot of things we got to bring up that's going to help.
I feel like if there was a silver bullet,
we would have
give someone a Nobel Prize, because I mean, it's not just Harrisburg that's dealing with it. I mean, this is a nationwide issue that we're seeing all in cities all across the country. You mentioned how one of the challenges is going to be the fact that not everyone wants to get shelter or seek a permanent solution. They enjoy the life of living out in the street.
I wouldn't say so. I would be very cautious to say someone enjoys the life of living out on the street. I would say some people are working through any number of mental health needs or have had trauma attached to a shelter or an experience that they've had, and the freedom of being on the street in a tent gives the feeling of more security than the potential of either property loss or abuse that they've experienced previous. And so, and by the way, that doesn't necessarily mean that's a rational, calculation that person's making, but I'm only saying, like, we've got to be careful to assume that we're going to provide something that in our mind would meet the need, without understanding that there's probably going to be some downstream people who don't see that as meeting their need or who refuse that service. And what do we do? How do we ensure that either we get buy-in from that population or that population's needs are met? Those are questions that I think we have to, have thoughts about as we plan and collaborate.
I feel like, I mean, you could tell me I'm flat out wrong, because if there's one thing that I fully admit is just in the last 2 years that I've kind of been working with the city and kind of been dealing with this sort of situation head on, is how much I've had to learn about the situation. And it's one thing to say you've always been sympathetic and empathetic towards homelessness and the unhoused population. It's another thing to be kind of deep in the weeds with talking about solutions.
Sure.
And I would imagine that it's really hard to do, like, not saying that this is what we're doing, but like an a la carte sort of, this works for this person, this works for this person, when there's so many people that you have to help and you have to give them options to help. Yeah. You mentioned as possibly like looking into purchasing a hotel where we can have shelter, but not everyone might want to do something like that.
Yeah.
So that becomes a separate issue of what to do with the individuals who don't necessarily want to go.
It also
into
becomes, where is that hotel located? How close is it to other resources? Because when you move an unhoused person to a different location, you have to consider the resources that they use. How close are they to those resources in proximity? What is the transportation situation like for them to get resources that potentially they require in order, whether that's healthcare or any number of things. And so all I think I'm saying is that I think we need to ensure that whatever solution we come up with, we've done the work to consider a variety of perspectives, that it's diverse in its consideration of different unhoused experiences. And if we do that, then I think we're probably going to find that we're meeting the base needs of the population, which I think is what we want to ensure we do. Where I think, at times we can make plans for things from one perspective and then not necessarily understand why it's not being utilized by a group afterwards and feel like, well, why aren't they using it? Well, we probably didn't maybe understand that there might be some other needs that exist there. I do think that as we continue to bolster up our mental health care resources, that we're going to see that have an impact on our unhoused population as well. So I don't, again, I think we got to see this as an ecosystem instead of just, we need to get unhoused people housed in hotels and that'll solve everything. Like it won't though, because we have affordable housing issues. We have mental health care issues. We have drug and alcohol issues. We have a number of things that need attention. And as each of those are getting attention, I think you kind of make the ecosystem a better place.
And to that point, did you see what recently happened in Denver as they're trying to deal with their own unhoused population?
I did not
know. So situation that I think we can, as city and county employees that are going to have to deal with this, we can learn from is they moved a handful, and Denver's homeless population is exponentially larger than the city of Harrisburg.
Yes, yeah.
And they moved hundreds of individuals into a hotel, but in the process, kicked out a number of people who were living in
the hotel
in said hotel. So you are cutting off your nose in spite of your face, and you are creating another problem, or just kicking the can down the road on another problem.
Certainly,
and that is just to your point. We have to make sure that what we're doing is we're solving problems and not just creating additional problems by addressing one.
Yeah, and what you say is good too, because it's like we all know the PennDOT encampment is coming up for being the staging ground for the I-83 expansion. That's something the community's known for a long time. Mm-hmm. That's a very large encampment that's only grown in size. As we solve that problem, in essence, those individuals that will be displaced from that being the staging ground, we can't just be thinking about solving that problem. Does that make sense? Like we need to have a long-term view of like a tiered approach of, dominoes in essence of this is domino 1 that's going to help with domino 2, domino 3. And certainly, as you know, how do we access funding for these things, whether it's grant money or, other monies. But before we even go ask for money, we got to have a clear and concise plan that's going to be that's going to solve the first problem, that's going to build on how we solve the ecosystem problem, right? That's what I'm excited to be at the table for now. From the activist community, you kind of are the person sounding the alarm, saying there's a problem. Now I get to sit at the table and instead of sounding the alarm and saying there's a problem, I get to have a say in like ideas that might help solve the problem. And that's a deep responsibility, and also something I'm excited to bring my full effort to.
And therein lies the great value of being an elected official, is having a seat at the table when you are so passionate about the issue that you're talking about. Those are conversations that have already started. We're going to continue to ongo, and we're looking forward to kind of having those conversations with the county as well. I want to switch gears 180, have a little fun before we wrap things up.
Do it. Yeah.
A few rapid fire questions just to kind of get to know you a little more.
Okay.
Who is Justin Douglas? So, obviously you're from the Middletown area, but you're working.
I'm from Conawaga.
So
a little outside
near Middletown. But now you're working full time in the city of Harrisburg. So where is your favorite place to eat in the area?
Ooh, my favorite place to eat in the area, in Harrisburg or in Dauphin County?
Give me Dauphin County. Give me your favorite place to eat. I want to know your favorite place to eat.
Oh, dude, I feel like I'm going to throw a bunch of other places under the bus if I pick one. Oh, the rapid fire. All right, I'm going to give you my family's favorite place to go on Sundays after church, which is Moe's Southwest Grill, which is like a Chipotle pretty much. It's like, that's our go-to. So the family will be proud of that. Obviously, it's a chain restaurant. I go to a lot of, I can't remember the crepe place, but we've been eating a lot of the crepe place. The deli down here, is it
Downtown Deli?
Downtown Deli. Oh,
solid.
Downtown Deli is solid. That's like our go-to for the office now. So I had to get some local places in there. I forget the crepe place name, but it's around the corner. It's really good. That's good too.
All right. If you weren't a commissioner or involved in community service or church pastor work in any way, what would you be doing?
I'd be a musician.
Playing what? That's a follow. That's a sixth question.
Yeah,
Following
I play drums, bass, and guitar. Guitar is my primary instrument. I'd be doing something like singer-songwriter probably.
Do you have a band?
I have had bands, yeah.
Are you playing in one now?
I released a song last year, which was like my first foray into country.
We got to get you in for studio sessions on Channel 20, our live music show.
I'll do it. I'll do it sometime. That'll be fun.
Here's a good follow-up question to that. What music are you streaming right now? What's on your Spotify?
Yeah, so I'm very eclectic when it comes to music, so it's kind of the mood of the day.
What is the mood of today?
Today's mood was I listened to some new metal this morning, some Korn I listened to. I streamed while I was driving in. But usually I'm more of like indie rock. Phoebe Bridgers is really big on my playlist usually. But I come from like in college, I played in metal bands. So I like metal and I like, and I'm slowly getting into country in a weird way, which is kind of, it feels weird still to say because 10 years ago me would have probably punched me in the face if I said that.
So two things.
Yeah.
First, may have made history by having Korn and Phoebe Bridgers mentioned in the same answer in a positive way to a question. And the second thing about you getting into country, my next question, I swear to God, was fill in the blank. Taylor Swift is
amazing. What do you mean Taylor Swift is? I'm not.
It's the right answer.
Listen, I have multiple Taylor Swift albums on vinyl. In my opinion, 1989 is the best record she's made. That record is great, and I'm all about the Taylor Swift. I'm not a Kansas City Chiefs fan, but I love seeing someone support someone that they love, and it's cool to see.
You and I are in lockstep in everything you just said. You and I are in lockstep there. Lastly, who takes longer to get ready, you or your wife?
My wife. Yeah, but I mean, she's not excessive. It's fine. Like usually, it's, I don't take longer to get ready.
Got it.
She'll probably find some way that I do. But okay, so what music are you streaming? I want to know, and the people want to know.
Sure. So right now I am super into the SiriusXM channel Mosaic, which is mid to late 90s and early 2000s pop.
That's good.
I go back and forth. I'm very eclectic. I'm not as much.
What is that? Like Dishwalla, Spin Doctors?
No, Spin Doctors is too early 90s.
Okay. What would it be?
So there's
Britney
a
Spears?
little bit of that's too
radio
pop.
That's
too radio pop. I heard what is the one song from the Bad Boy soundtrack, Shy Guy.
Okay.
I forget that. You had Ani Kamosi is on that. Also like Kelly Clarkson and what was Vertical Horizon.
Oh, Vertical Horizon.
Yeah. So I mean,
we're that kind of
like the pop that kind of straddled the line between alternative and it
was when we were coming out of the grunge phase and trying to figure out what was going to be next.
Yeah. But I'm also, I mean, my number one band is Phish. I mean, I'm a huge Phish fan and a huge Dave Matthews Band fan, and you put those two on, and I'll just listen to it all the time. But I like kind of mixing it up.
Have you done the like Phish where you go to a show and then you go to the show the next night and it's a completely different show? Have you done that?
Somewhat.
Okay. So I have friends who have done that. Who have done multiple days, and I'm like, that seems so weird. But then they're like, it's a completely different show.
It's a totally different show.
That's wild.
No, my brother is in that phase. In that, so he lives in New York City, where they'll play 4 or 5 straight nights at the Garden.
Oh wow, yeah.
And he'll go 2 or 3 straight nights, and it's a totally different show. And I don't have the ability to stay there for 3 straight nights.
But you and I have kids, and we have right. Maybe your brother has kids too.
Right. I also listen. I will gladly spend $180 on a ticket, but 2 nights in a row, I'm not so sure about that. But no, I will say that I saw Phish because the Trey Anastasio band was at Riverfront Park over the summer. And I saw Phish twice at the Garden this year. Once in July, once around New Year's, and then I saw Trey when he did the show at Riverfront Park, and each show entirely different.
That's amazing.
Each show is entirely different, and it is it's part of what makes Phish as a band so great. Is the catalog is so large that they can play different shows every single time. Historically, Phish back in 2017 they did 13 straight nights at the Garden. They did 13 nights, called the Baker's Dozen tour. It's very well known amongst Phish fans because they did 13 nights and did not repeat a single song.
What?
Now, part of the reason they can do that is they'll only play 15 songs,
but they're 10-minute songs.
Right, exactly. But the fans don't mind because
if
they're just jamming
jam
out.
Band,
right, exactly.
I was bummed that I missed Dead and Company with John Mayer at the. They came to Hershey Park, I think.
Yeah,
and I missed that show, and I was like, I've never been into like the jam band thing. I love Dave Matthews Band, so that would be the closest I think I've got into that. But that would have been a good kind of like, I feel like an entry level into the jam band because you get John Mayer. And it's like, I get to see John Mayer do this.
See,
that would have been cool.
I was in my John Mayer phase in, 2001, 2002. And actually, I don't know if you're kind of into this, but did you know Guster is playing at XL Live?
Really?
Guster's playing XL Live in March.
Yeah. Okay.
And when that came out, I'm like, Guster was my
band. They were big
in my senior year of high school to like my sophomore year of college. Yeah. Like I was in my Guster phase. So when I saw that they were coming to Harrisburg this spring, I jumped at the opportunity.
That'll be a big show. I bet.
It would be a lot of people our age.
Yep.
Basically just reliving their high school and college days.
And college. Yeah. That's awesome.
We talked for about 18 minutes and then it got fun. So I appreciate the music questions because I could go all day about that.
Oh, me too. I could talk music all day. In my office, my record player is about to be in my office with tons of records. That's kind of, music is a big part of my life, has been my whole life, and it brings me a lot of joy and contentment and inspiration. And so, looking forward to having that in my office.
It's important to feel at home. When you're. I mean, let me backtrack. I know a lot of people who there is a clear line in the sand. This is work. This is home. I don't want anything to do with work at home. I don't want anything to do with home at work. Yeah. And I know there are other people, and I fall into that boat where I need that comfort. Yeah. If I do my best work when I'm in a comfort zone. Yeah. In my office, I grew up in Pittsburgh, so I have a lot of Pittsburgh sports memorabilia and things like that because that is that's comfort to me. Yeah. And you talking about having a record player with tunes in your office, that sounds like home comfort. I'm going to do my best work that way. Yep. So that's how I feel. It's good to know that you're a month into it now and you're getting more comfortable as the days go by. Yeah. Justin, it is awesome to have you as a Dauphin County Commissioner.
Thanks for having me.
Looking forward to working with you and talking with you more. And our studio is open. So when you want to stop by again, get the word out about stuff, certainly we will help you do that.
Thank you.
So thank you
so much. Thanks.
That's the word, Harrisburg. Thank you so much for joining us here on WHBG Channel 20. Our guest today was Dauphin County Commissioner Justin Douglas, helping Dauphin County become a Democratic majority county for the first time since, what'd you say, the Civil War era?
That's what I was told.
All right, we'll go with that. Justin, thank you so much, and thank you for watching here on Channel 20. We'll see you next time.